Hi, folks. Welcome to Thursday's edition of the I Write Radio podcast stroke videocast. Big day in Scotland today. Nicola Sturgeon has detailed some of the new coming out of lockdown, I suppose, measures. A lot more detail than we've been getting from the pressers down south. The difference is becoming so much more apparent. So, Stuart, what did you think of? Well, I suppose presentation is part of it, but what did you think of the detail?
Well, she'd trailed the detail last week and then a couple of days ago, and then also they published, strangely, on the SNP party website, the details. They looked like the official details, and I looked at them and I read them and I thought, well, that's very interesting, but surely this should have been on the Scottish Government website. So anyway, I'm up to speed on them, and there wasn't many great changes today. She used an interesting word when just before she started them, and she said, as she left describing the data of all the deaths and etc., she said, we're getting inured to that when she moved on. So I looked it up, and that's getting habituated to something bad.
Jimmy and I both know what inured means.
Well, he must have been habituated getting something bad quite a lot. She talked about the fact that she lays things out very formally. Her experience as a lawyer seems to come out these days. She introduced what was happening as legally we have to review every 3 weeks. It's as though somebody had their hand behind their back twisting it up. But she obviously was going to do it. But she does get this idea that she doesn't want to. Test and protect, of course, is the name of it. What's clearly happened is that the UK government have launched the English test, trace and track, or something, whatever it is. They've got a mixed up message there as usual. It was scheduled to be the end of June, the middle of June, Monday, and then suddenly it was launching today as well. And it's a dog's breakfast, and it's got a different name. Today, Test and Protect, I don't really want to go through too many of the details. You can socially go and visit a friend or a family. No, I'm not going to go into the details. Somebody else can talk about that. But they have been relaxed. But she seemed quite worried about that. No hotspots. You can't go to the beach.
Well, I mean, what she said was, don't go to the beach if it's busy. But what it essentially is, you can visit another household if you're outside. And what we thought was going to be
one household.
What we thought was going to be one household is in fact more than one household, but only one at a time.
On one each day.
Yeah, effectively. That's what she's saying. And then there's the suggested 5-mile radius from your home for travel, for fitness and visiting and stuff. That's not law, but it's what they'd like you to stick to. And what I really did notice was how many times she emphasized 2-meter distancing, washing your hands. So all the things to keep you safe should be continued. So you're not allowed to suddenly run up to your grandkids, cuddle and kiss them and whatever. You should maintain social distancing.
That's a personal thing that would worry me, because I want to go and see my daughter and my grandson, but the first thing that would happen was the wee laddie would run up and want a cuddle.
Well, you've got to punch him in the face, Stuart. Discouraging.
And the alternative is to go and see the other close family member is my brother, but he lives more than 5 miles away.
Well, I think it's not a hard and fast rule. I mean, as far as I would interpret that is, if your only relation lives 20 miles away, you can go and see them, as long as you didn't go in the house, stay in the garden. Don't have a tolly while you're there. Don't touch the door handles. Don't go in the house. And that was the reason she gave for the 5-mile radius, I think, was it not? Because if it's more than 5 miles, you might have to use the loo.
I may have to go to the toilet. I've already explained that to my brother, but if I'm coming across to see him, we'll have to meet in the garden, and I'll have to pee in the garden as well.
Jimmy, anything that impressed you? You'll be able to legally go to the Gardener's Arms now.
I think it was an interesting piece of presentation, as you say. I'm more interested in how it works out. I believe the wifey that they've managed to find to front the English version has said today on a conference call to MPs that they actually won't be in a position to run this thing effectively till the end of June. So that could be a story that develops this afternoon, because clearly they've brought this forward to this week to try and take the heat off Dominic Cummings. And that's that bird. She used to run Talk, the communications company. I believe she's a dame.
Oh, the one that ran it into the ground, that one.
Aye, well, she's fronting the English version, the UK version, per se. And as I say, she's apparently told MPs today that it will be the end of the month before theirs is up and running correctly.
Well, so, Northern Ireland is ahead of the curve. They've already introduced it. Wales introduces it, I think, tomorrow. Scotland's introducing it today. England could not be seen politically to be behind the curve on this one.
That's a strong point.
The other thing is they're presenting the English version as if it's part of the NHS, and it's not. We all know that. It's Serco that are running the English version. And a company like Serco, they've got to make a profit or they wouldn't be in it. So what we're seeing is 100% of the funding going into Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland is going into the scheme. And not 100% of the funding in England is going into the scheme because Serco are taking their cut.
It'll be interesting to see. I mean, I foresee an unofficial lockdown on a lot of the information from this. I mean, we spoke before we came on air about the different attitude the BBC had to Laura Kuenssberg supporting a government minister with a tweet. And
oh no, hold it! Not a government minister, an appointed, unelected bureaucrat she supported.
Oh, I thought it was the Matt Hancock tweet that.
No, the big hoo-ha was when she came out and supported Dominic Cummings.
Oh, right. And Mateless on Newsnight, effectively the BBC have apologised for telling the truth.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, a truth that has been confirmed today by Durham Police, absolutely coming out in Foursquare saying that Dominic Cummings, when he drove to Barnard Castle, broke the rules of lockdown. At that point, Cummings and Boris should really be considering that their entire defence this week has been blown apart, unless they're going to accuse Durham Police of being wrong.
They already have.
Have they?
I can't remember who it was, basically came out and said that Durham Police were telling porkies. I mean, it was that hair-splitting thing.
Yeah, well, that's not hair. No, Durham Police investigation only finished about an hour and a half ago, mate. That's when they came up with the announcement that Cummings has broken the law.
Well, they effectively said Durham Police had not contacted any of the family. Technically, that was accurate because Cummings' father phoned them.
First, but that's semantics. That's bullshit.
Yeah, it's hair splitting. So, Stuart, you tweeted out the FT piece, which you can see flashing behind me, various graphs about the true position of the UK in the league table of the macabre fact of deaths.
Well, the fact is that the Financial Times have been running this professionally built database on deaths based on excess deaths compared to the current death rate compared to a rolling average of the last 5 years. So in other words, this is excess deaths almost certainly either caused by the virus or connected to the lockdown by the virus. One way or another, it's because of the virus. Now, even the Prime Minister himself said, well, the only international data that you can use to compare what's happening in the UK is these excess deaths. Well, the Financial Times today announced that the UK is now top of the world's top of the world for the worst death rate. So,
The slide you can see behind me at the moment is an England-Scotland comparison, by the way.
And in any other circumstances, this would cause a government to collapse.
I think we've got to the point now where this government can do what it wants. It can make the mistakes it wants. It can lie, hide, twist the truth. It's Trumpian to the nth degree. And the press are doing nothing about it. The way the BBC's acted with Koonsberg and Mateless is an indicator of that. But the press in general, the front pages you see flashing up again behind me are today's front pages. Nobody is leading with the fact that Britain has the worst death rate per head of population of anybody except America.
Well, they're not going to, are they? They're bloody owned by billionaires who are going to support Boris Johnson. And the only reason they would stop supporting Boris is if they put Michael Gove or somebody else in charge. As long as it's a Tory, they don't give a damn. And frankly, they didn't give a damn about 60,000 people, because most of the folk that have died are elderly and poor.
What is our press doing? I think there's maybe one headline, but not even the FT that's running this information headlined it.
Well, here's another point, because this is a running story for us. Having watched today's Scottish Government briefing, and again watched the Scottish press ask all the different questions, not one of them has said, well, what about the Financial Times report that Britain now has the worst death rate in the world, or in Europe at the very least? Not one of them asked that question, and yet that surely is the most damaging news of the day, the most horrifying thing.
Well, but they're not going to ask Nicola Sturgeon about it, are they? It's no
they could have asked her to comment.
I mean, the other one I noticed was the Mail, having 2 days ago attacked Dominic Cummings on its front page.
But
it's back to its usual crap.
Yeah, but there's a difference between turning around and attacking Dominic Cummings and attacking the government as a whole. They just want changes at the top.
Well, it's beginning to get really scary. I mean, we're anoraks when it comes to politics, but it's now getting to the point where the press are actually lying by omission. I mean, the Herald today had front page is an attack on Nicola Sturgeon, who is being forced into having an inquiry into care homes. Now, yesterday she said at First Minister's question,
that's a lie.
Yes, we're going to have an inquiry into the whole thing, including care homes.
Yeah, it's a lie.
Now that's a supposedly serious newspaper, totally misleading its readership and everybody that passes the newsstand.
They have to. It's a unionist newspaper. They are panicking about how badly they're going to lose the election and how much more likely that means losing Scotland. I mean, you saw for the questions today, people are still going on about bloody the Nike conference. People are insinuating that if that Nike conference hadn't happened, we wouldn't have got coronavirus in Scotland. They're calling it ground zero. It's abject. It's utter failure. And when you get STV, ITV Border, Sky News, all trying to rubbish the test and protect scheme that Scotland's bringing in, and they're only trying to rubbish it for one reason, and that reason is it's because it's fucking better than the English system that they're rushing into place and is going to be a pig's breakfast.
Well, their website's already collapsed this morning.
Right. It's an absolute cluster waiting to happen. It's a disaster down there. And this nonsense as well about this kilt fitter. I mean, I'm sorry, they're all trying to run that story. Aye, she fitted kilts to 10 people. Presumably those 10 people weren't the people that tested positive for the virus, because if they were, the contract tracers would have been straight to her door.
I'm actually really surprised that they didn't delve into that. The Scottish government didn't delve into that, because the answer to that simply has to be none of the 10 people who went to the kilt fitter had coronavirus.
Aye.
So there was no need to speak to the kilt fitter.
Exactly. She doesn't fit she doesn't fit the description of a contact. Therefore, she wasn't contacted. That's not difficult to work out. It's just difficult for the UK press and Britnats to admit to.
I do think I suppose there's a good side to it, in the sense that the government is giving out so much information. I mean, I think there was 2 or 3 times today she was asked questions where she turned around and said, Sarah Smith, for instance, "Oh, were you not listening on Tuesday?" And I laid this out in detail. And another one, I think it might have been the Daily Record, where she said, "Oh, were you not listening 5 minutes ago?" Where I laid this out in detail. You know,
Yeah, I'll tell you what was hilarious, mate. The wee bird for the sun. The wee bird for the sun, who basically said, "When can I hump my man?" That was basically what her question was all about. And I mean, a fair play to Nicola Sturgeon. She was very polite. I was sitting there chewing my fingers, trying not to shout at the telly. Doll, get creative. Chuck him in the bath. Have a wee bath together. Bath and hand sanitizer. But Ken what? Didn't like the candle. Didn't like the candles in case it fucking lights the whole thing.
That was a question in point. She turned around and said to her, "You know, I told you we were looking into this and hadn't made a decision. You horny little minx, you."
And I think that it was fun too when they were asked about people going out in the sun. And, the chief medical officer was handing out sunbathing tips, and the First Minister said she really didn't expect to be giving advice on sunbathing. But what I was waiting for, I can guarantee that it was the guy from the Express that was asking about that. And I'm sure the headline tomorrow is going to be "Taps Off."
I was waiting for Jason Leach to burst out into his best Noel Coward about Mad Dogs and Englishmen in a very posh accent.
Right.
No, it's going to be "Taps Off" tomorrow.
The other thing I picked up on, I don't know if you guys were on Twitter yesterday, but there was a definite push to have everybody out at 8 o'clock tomorrow booing Boris Johnson. I didn't take part in it, I have to say, and didn't hear any boos in my street. What about you guys? Anybody?
Was that last night?
It was supposed to be last night.
I missed that. I thought tonight was the plan. Would boo at 8 o'clock tonight.
No, I wouldn't boo tonight, mate. Thursday's when you're meant to be clapping for the NHS. If you're booing out your window, somebody's liable to egg you.
Well, just in case you missed it, lads, here's something, a wee video from the Daily Record from a street in Kirkcaldy. Now, forgive me, because I've got to do about 18 clicks to get this rolling.
And then it's the Daily Record. I know what that's like. I very rarely go there because they shower you with advertising.
That site's worse than a newspaper.
You never get to the meat of what you want to find out about. I can see it.
Takes a while to load, as you can see.
Scottstown out in force in Boo for Boris event because he's a Muppet. I like the headline. Oh, well.
I mean,
we need to write to the Daily Telegraph and tell them to get their video stuff sorted out.
That's the record.
Also, this was some maintains.
Oh yes, I
Right, that's enough of that.
Oh, that is enough. Let's be honest, mate. That's Fifers. They're really booing because the chippy's going to charge them for salt and vinegar.
I've already had a comment from a guy from Glasgow about us slagging the West Coast, so I expect some insults from Fife now.
It's all right when you're all right if you just talk about fish and chips, because I mean you've got to have it with sauce. Salt and sauce.
See, I'm a real pig. I like salt, sauce, and vinegar.
Well, all you're doing is adding more vinegar because
Aye.
brown sauce is old-fashioned brown sauce with vinegar. The stuff
Salt
you
and
get
rum.
chippy.
Rum.
Salt and rum, that's the way to go with your fish supper.
Salt and rum. Okay.
Aye.
Anything else anybody particularly noticed?
Oh, I need to
Apart
warn
from-
everybody. Yeah, I need to warn everybody about the current advice on social distancing and whether you'll catch the virus. The latest scientific report suggests that 2 meters is not actually far enough. The most dangerous part of the virus that might be floating around in the air is the really small particles. They will travel further and they'll go deeper into your lungs and you'll have a worse experience of the virus. And also if you've got polluted air, apparently the virus will combine with the dirt, the pollution particles, and hang about longer. So it's all good news.
So the longer we have lockdown, the better the air will be, the less ability the virus will have to travel.
Yeah, I guess we won't really know for another 2 or 3 months.
You heard it here first, folks.
We're going to have to wait till the timing of these possible second waves and how bad they are, and then we'll know if they've done it right.
Well, there's an uptick in England.
Yeah, did you see that story yesterday about that Western hospital?
Western
was a hotspot.
Supermare. Yeah.
Yeah, 40% of the staff that had been treating COVID patients have tested positive, which would tend to suggest that wherever Western Hospital got their PPE, they were robbed.
Well, it's far more complicated than that. This scientific report is really saying that this virus is it's a factor of many times more infectious than anybody predicted. It's hanging around in the air for hours indoors. Hours.
So effectively, you should be masked up all the time.
And then there's 2 parts of it. There's the very small particles and the heavier particles. The heavier particles are dropping down with gravity and landing on all the surfaces. And if you touch the surface, you can pick it up. It's a horrifying report.
Oh, well.
Let's go to the pub.
Now you've cheered me up no end. Can somebody not discover that drinking copious amounts of alcohol cures it?
I'm more interested in why they stopped all information about the French and Italian reports that having a fag and a drink was actually a decent way of protecting yourself with the virus somewhat.
Oh, here, that's an interesting point because that's part of the report about if you want to visualize how far virus can travel in the air.
No, I didn't.
Think about how far past the smoke coming out of a smoker's mouth travels, and that you can see how far the virus is traveling.
There's the latest update.
Scientific reports are depressing. I want a drink and a fag.
Well, here, there is some good news. You must have seen the Brewdog advert.
So that was the Dominic Cummings must go.
They brought out a Barnard Castle special.
Breaking news, folks. This is devastating. Michelle Ballantyne, that tower of intellect from the borders, Scottish Tory MSP, says Dominic Cummings is being hounded.
Well, she should know because she lives right next door to the Buccleuch Hunt border hounds.
Has her husband not got the hotel there?
Aye, the Buccleuch Arms in.
Aye. Mate of mine used to own it, Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah, well, it's next door to where they keep all the hounds for the hunt, the Buccleuch Hunt.
I've just had a terrible thought. I wonder she couldn't be his daughter, could she? Oh dear.
I'm assuming the headline for that one wasn't a border boiler barks.
No, it was on Twitter, I have to say. But Michelle Ballantyne is the kind of person that if she asked me to feel sorry for a starving child in Africa, I would presume she was lying about them being starving.
Well, don't forget she had 6 kids, and apparently she had them all on benefits before she met this rich guy.
Before she became a Tory.
There you go.
Anything else that struck us today?
No.
Oh, I'll tell you what I came across. Carol Cadwallader has spotted that the government is paying, the Daily Mail is the one she's mentioned, to publish pro-government propaganda pieces about how well it's handling COVID-19, us being at the very pinnacle of the pile of deaths. So your money as a taxpayer is being used to bolster this incredibly incompetent Tory government.
It's happening in Scotland too.
Sorry, Stuart?
It's happening in Scotland too.
Well, I mean, if you're doing, I think in Scotland, the Scottish government's paying for public health messaging.
Aye, that's true.
Which is different.
So.
I do have to say, I have a slight problem about them bolstering the Deadwood Press.
Oh, that's a good name.
Where else are they going to publish public health information? They're not going to publish it on bloody
telly.
No. They've spent enough on telly. I'm sick of the sight of Jason Leach saying the same thing. At least with things changing, his message is going to change today.
I think they should have got comedians to do it, except for that little that's on the telly all the time doing that.
Oh, the dwarf.
Royal Bank of Scotland ad.
Aye, but she's a horrible right-wing person, apparently.
Well, anybody that's got a cupboard just for coats shouldn't be listened to.
Apparently she's awful, mate. Apparently she really should be growing a wee toothbrush moustache, apparently, about politics.
She's, what's his name's granddaughter that wrote the report.
The devolution report.
No, the report about the oil back in the 70s. Same surname as her. What's her surname?
Calman. Aye.
He wrote the Calman report, her grandfather.
All right. Well, it was her dad that wrote the other report. You had the Smith report somewhere after
that. Wouldn't be a Smith, mate.
No. Anyway, I'm speculating.
So, anything else, chaps? No funnies to finish with?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to get on I managed to get the sunblock that you see cricketers wear and tennis players. So I'm going to get that all over my nose and right across my cheeks. And then I'm going to get my Indian headdress on and a tomahawk and go out and frighten people.
I was going to say, why don't you just wear a wide-brimmed hat?
Oh, I'm wearing that as well.
Okay. Well, I've got to ask, guys, before we go, we've managed to kind of avoid talking too much about the demented Dominic, but do we still think there's a possibility he just might go?
No. You owe me a tenner, by the way.
I don't owe you a tenner.
Yes, you are.
I didn't take the bet.
Yeah, all right. Welsher.
What do you mean? You were moaning because I put brackets round it. You were betting he was going anyway. So, Jimmy, Dominic, is he going to go?
There's still an outside possibility, mate. If Durham police insist that he's broken lockdown, well, the entire defence of the government was that he hadn't done anything wrong. So what are we getting? We're getting police saying that he broke the guidelines and politicians interpreting what the police are saying as inaccurate.
Well, look, you've got to remember that we've got Keir Starmer saying that he didn't have to go, or not saying he has to go.
Keir Starmer's he's that far up his own arse, he doesn't care what he's saying. He's busily trying to outdo bloody Boris Johnson at hide and seek.
And then we've got originally the peak of 40 backbench Tory MPs. Apparently, a lot of them are rowing back now.
60 odd have come out and said he should go, apparently. I'll tell you, here's a surprising thing for you guys. Do you know what we've not mentioned?
What's that?
Boris Johnson in front of the liaison committee. And do you know why we've not mentioned it?
He was rubbish.
Because his incompetence was no surprise to anybody.
You expected him to be a bumbling fool, and he was. And let's be honest, Bernard Jenkins gave him a wee bit of protection at times.
Oh, he did. I started writing down the number of times he used stupid words like fantastic and incredible, same as I did when he made his main speech 10 days ago on that Sunday night. That's all he does. He comes out with all these stupid Trump-type words.
Can you remember the last time that a chairman of any committee interrupted people to tell them to ask a question?
Yeah, well, if you got to bear in mind, the people running the Tory party are far more interested in Brexit than they are in this virus.
No, well, I'm asking the question because
Bernard Jenkins is a master. He's a master of Brexiteers.
Yes, but he's chairman of the committee. Is it his position to shut down committee members who are making statements before questions?
It is when they're married to Ed Balls, apparently.
He did it basically, I think, about 5-6 times.
There's also the thing, by the way, that committee, the liaison committee, that was the one that, as soon as it came into being for this parliament, they were meant to be publishing the Russia report. So I'm assuming that that's just they're not going to bother at all now.
Well, it was a very interesting democratic move that they made there. The only person who was put up, because apparently MPs vote for the chair of the liaison committee, the only person that was put up for the position was Bernard Jenkins. So you can have a chair that we choose, or you can't have a committee, because the reason the committee wasn't instigated earlier was they didn't have a chair.
Norrie, there's an exasperation in your voice. You should know better. This government, we don't have a constitution. The government of the United Kingdom, whichever government it is, but especially one with an 80-seat majority, can do anything it wants. It's completely unaccountable.
The difference between this government and previous governments is it's stopped pretending to be accountable.
There you go.
That's the difference.
It's very true. Well, guys, on that note, before we go, I just want to point out the sage advice on schools is to be published this afternoon. And I have it from a source on Twitter that advice categorically states that it's unsafe to open schools on Monday. And the government have gone against the advice of sage. So we'll see if that actually happens, because if that's true, then that's a huge story about to burst.
And they have a different situation in England where they do actually fine people large amounts of money if they don't go to school, and they can actually jail. They have actually jailed people who refuse.
Yeah, but you've already got 18 local authorities saying that they're not going to open their schools on Monday. If that advice is as quoted, how many local authorities will just turn around and say, by the way, we're not opening the schools for another couple of weeks?
I quite believe it.
I'll tell you what, that if anybody gets fined for refusing to send their child to school, the Dominic Cummings comparison will be made again and again. And it won't go away. Part of me, I asked the question, I know, but part of me thinks that he is going to go. I don't think he'll go completely. I think he'll come back as the head of some think tank or something.
You see, the thing about the Dominic Cummings issue,
we're not over time yet.
You've got obviously more than one elite. If you've got the newspapers splitting on the issue, you've got different elites arguing. It's a rally between elites. We're not going to bring the whole.
There's no such thing as a rammy between elites. They're all elite. They're just pretending that some are less elite than others, so that people think. Dominic Cummings has made a career pretending to be a man of the people. What was it he talked about only a few weeks ago, that we don't need Oxbridge graduates telling us things? He is an Oxford graduate, for Christ's sake.
Aye.
That doesn't refute what I said. That's exactly what I said.
But you're talking about elites fighting amongst themselves. They're just pretending. As long as they've got common people thinking, if he's on our side, then they've got us fooled.
Totally disagree with that. You think that they're all just one big elite and they've got a world government? That's how at least conspiracy theorists get the idea.
That's you putting stupid ideas in my fucking head.
All these elites are just like the school playground. They all fight amongst each other, their own different gangs.
I'm not sure they do. I think most of the fighting is about maintaining the system as it is. And I think Dominic Cummings talks a lot of shit about changing things.
Mm.
He maybe wants to change things so his particular elite's on top,
That's what I'm saying.
but that's the only change. And he'll still need all the other elites round him in a circle to confuse us poor sods at the bottom of the pyramid.
Well, he's trying to convince people there's some kind of meritocracy being created in England. What a nonsense. He's married into the aristocracy and he comes for more money than a horse can shit.
I mean, you have a turn of phrase that cheers me up no end.
It does. I
I'm
think
glad of that.
he can be very quick not to swear as well. You can hear the start of some swear words and they vanish off.
Or sometimes, no.
I'm just thinking that expression will no doubt totally replace the magic money tree.
I doubt it.
I think, gentlemen, we'll call it a day at that. Thank you, Stuart Lockhead. Thanks, Jimmy Hutton. I'm Noise Stuart.
Deal.
Thank you, folks, for listening and watching. And we'll catch up with you tomorrow, where we might get back on track and start talking about the sneaky things the government's been up to under cover of the virus.
Mm-hmm.
Cheers for now, folks.
Jesus, it's busy.